make sustainable living in their own environment without technology, which we believe technology is going to save us, but maybe it's not going to be like that. And yeah, and also nature has great technology and design. For example, mushrooms.
But what David was telling us before is actually picking up on also what Kabi was saying.
Yeah.
Kabi was saying that we need more innovation centers or innovation, let's say, huts. Let's call it an innovation hut, okay? Because otherwise it sounds like MIT or Harvard. We want to make it very sound, very Nigerian, very villages. Yes, let's have an innovation village, and then make sure that people, through the ease of technology, actually become innovators. Is that something which you wanted to comment on as well? Why don't you say your name?
Yeah, my name is Johan Malmqvist. I'm a professor and entrepreneur. I've founded several companies, between 10 and 20, I'm not sure. But I've been in IT for 45 years. And what I have heard here...
Where were you when 45 years ago, Nicholas?
Sorry?
Where were you 45 years ago?
45 years ago, somewhere.
How about you?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
But the reason I wanted to tell you that is the worry about the technology you were talking about here. I've heard this so many times, and you don't need to worry. The technology will catch up with it. The thing you should focus on is give the young people a chance to invent, and the technology will catch up.
Thank you very much. This is an optimistic note, which means that, Roberto, any problem you see in terms of security, if you invent, you will be able to solve it. Ifat, you wanted to speak to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to give two quick quotes or elaborations. When we say innovation, I see we always talk about we talk about technology innovation. But what I would really like to see is knowledge innovation rather than technology innovation, meaning that we want to think of the knowledge that already exists in communities and the knowledge that the communities require and need for their development. So this is the first note I really wanted to highlight, to really focus on the knowledge itself and then use the technology for passing over the knowledge.
And now I'm cutting you off to give Jeff an opportunity to talk.
Just another small note.
I will ask. I will do something. I will do something which is a social innovation. Can I show what the social innovation is?
Perfect. Yeah.
Ask Jeff for permission if you can continue.
Can I just a small hint?
If only your time is going to be added to my time.
One sentence.
I can see the social innovation is to negotiate about time. Okay, so
you can go on.
Two sentences.
2 seconds.
Allow me for 2 seconds.
Yeah, you go on.
Okay, just 2 sentences. Again, we have been talking about communities, and the first thing we always talk, and I always hear, is what are the problems that exist in the communities? I wish to see what are the assets that the communities can utilize for the future, rather than looking into problems only. Look into assets.
Jeff, this is your time, and you can speak as long as
thank you very much.
Spoken, but not longer.
Okay, well, you've heard my name already. Jeff Okorafo is my name. I'm from Nigeria. I want to pick up from where she stopped, which is very important. She said, knowledge. Technology can exist, right? And from what the other professor said, he has been in the world of technology for 45 years. By then, I don't even know if I was being formed in Ibali. Okay. A lot of us understand technology, but there are a vast majority that don't even know what technology is all about, and that is where knowledge comes in. In my country right now, we are having an issue. 80% of the young people use mobile phones. And when I say mobile phones, I'm not talking about featured phones, smartphones. But what do they do with these smartphones? Do they actually use up to 40% of what smartphones should do to solve your problems? No, they don't. And because they don't have the knowledge, they don't have that understanding, nobody has taken the time, those who understand technology have not taken the time to put them through all this. That is where the problem comes in. Let me give you an example. I know he wants to cut me.
No, you have to tell us now what you think 80% of the young people in Nigeria use their mobile phones for. Tell us.
Okay,
what is it?
Great. Now I will start from myself. Okay.
But this is a bad example.
Okay. I think a couple of months ago, we did something like a road show. We try to, because there's this habit, if people are walking on the road, you see them, touching their phones, and
what do they
which
do?
is very dangerous. So we try to do a road show sometime. I happened to follow up on a guy who was busy pressing his phone, so I was like, excuse me, can you please tell me what you're doing right now? And he was like, why? I said, I just want to know, I'm writing a book. So he said that he's responding to a message on Facebook. And I said, okay, after that, what are you going to do next? He said, nothing. Then he's going to check his mail. So basically, what that tells me is that a lot of people are just engaging themselves on social media or on their mobile phone, which is kind of good, right? But that's not the only feature that mobile phone provides for us, smart mobile phones. So I noticed that those people within my age range are doing all this with their smartphones. But there are other smart things that they can do with it. For instance, I attended an international conference on payment system, which was organized by my country, by the way. Now, we have this fear of technology in my country. A lot of people are so scared of using their credit card on the internet because they have fear of technology.
Jeff, you hit the so-called EFAT threshold, which is the time limit which she accepted. No, but I think you made a very good point that people are using their mobile phone not for the things which is actually the social good.
Exactly.
Okay, this was your point, and I think we got it. And this is the end of it. And now we go on to the next person. And you hand the microphone to the professor, because the professor wants to add something which is really valuable insight, and he will be also as brief.
Okay, this is actually reinforces your point with a short story from Africa that I'm really glad that we're talking.
By the way, he's from Africa.
Yeah, I know. And that's why it made me think about this. It's actually from Mauritania. This is ancient history, but about 10, 12 years ago, when there were actually much fewer phones, or maybe no mobile phones, in many countries in Africa, and I was actually involved in advising some governments.
Okay, give us a story, because otherwise you will be out of the time.
The story is, this investment project in mobile phones in Mauritania was helped by the fact that we were starting to build up stories on problems that could be solved. I sat with 5 Tuareg tribesmen in Timbuktu who told me they'd never used a phone in their lives, never heard a dial tone. Amazing. And I explained to them what we were trying to do. And then they said, this could be very useful. And they started talking about putting chips in every camel. And that conversation started a whole process of collecting stories of how different problems in this country, in Mauritania and Mali, where people were traveling for 3 days to get medicines and so on, maybe these could be solved by mobile phones. This is even before we launched the investment process. And by the time we got to tendering the documents and launching the licensing process, we developed a very clear idea of how this could play out. And we had, in Mauritania, the most successful mobile tendering process because of this.
Who is we?
Well, I was working for the World Bank, but we were advising the government of Mauritania. They had the most successful introduction of mobile communications into Africa because of this process.
We will have Bardil, then we have Nicky Ernst, then we have Alfredo, remember? And then we go.
So,
yes, Bardil.
What I would like to say is that, yes, technology is very important, mobile phone, having access to content, having access to infrastructure, that's all very important. But what I think is the most important is to create an environment where we will empower youth to be more courageous, more confident to undertake actions and to act and to put this technology into into action. The reason why I'm saying that is that the environment is not following not only technology, but also the demands of young people, the demands of screen agers. For example, if a young entrepreneur in my country would like to start a business, it has to go to the bank and write a business plan. And this is a very difficult process, especially because if the idea is something like the example that Mr. Ralph Simon said, this application that would delete the photograph after 10 minutes. Imagine that you go with a business plan for this application to our bank.
Ralph Simons was faster, 10 seconds, he said.
So my point is we should first teach young people to be more confident and more courageous, and then to have those people change the environment in order for the environment to be more enabling for new ideas in order to make progress for the entire society.
Wonderful. We take 3 more interventions, and then we have the young people joining here again, because otherwise only the old people are sitting here. And then we close, because we want to have lunch, we want to get some sun, fresh air, put on the beach shoes, the clean shirts, and then get onto the train to go to the gala. So this is the narrative for the afternoon. But still we are here with Nikki Ernst, please.
I felt that my contribution would have fitted in better 10 minutes ago, literally. So I'm taking the curve a little about talking about innovation. And we've heard that this morning in a very strong session about innovation. I think there is a bit of change of paradigm, and it's asking questions not what are we doing, but how are we doing it. I think when we're talking about things that are available, it's like Lego building blocks, and so many people are looking for new Lego building blocks. People are waiting for new inventions, the next Facebook, the next Twitter, the next whatsoever. And I think it's time to take existing building blocks and repurpose and use innovation as a methodology for using existing building blocks to create something new.
Thank you. Janine, do you want to talk to this?
I wanted to speak to the developers and also the people who invest in this room. And the idea about iteration and developing things good enough, getting them out there, and then seeing how they respond. Because I've seen too many people in technology try to get it perfect before they launch it and never get it launched, or miss the opportunity to get feedback from their users. Twitter started as a podcasting tool. The hashtag was invented by its users. There are many examples of that. And for the funders, I will just say briefly, when you get a business plan from someone in technology, or you give a grant to someone in technology, and it's based on their idea today, and 6 months or a year from now, you expect them to deliver that, you are making a mistake. You need to build in a mechanism for which they can iterate through the process of funding and not expect somebody to deliver what your initial idea was, but be open to the fact that the best return on your investment will probably be something they didn't think of until 6 months into the project.
Thank you very much. Alfredo,
So
briefly.
Yes, I'll grab some keywords I heard this morning about innovation, about the so-called digital natives or people self-trained in technology, the example from Africa, from other countries, about illiterate people having the chance to use computers without any problem. And this is connected directly with the recent concern about the digital divide on the reverse, so the need to reconnect this generation with the traditional values and put together our, let me say, patrimony with the new values, new interest of people. Because there's a kind of fracture on the reverse now. And sometimes we face some problems that seems to be new, but instead they were already solved in the past, such as IPR or moral and ethical problems that arose thanks to new technologies, but are still in our background. That's all.
Thank you very much for talking about the renaissance of classical values in the mobile age. Are you from Italy? Thank you very much. Introduce yourself, please.
So I'm Dora Barbarigo. I'm a
chair.
professor at the National Technical University of Athens, also dealing with technology like a lot of people here. We've heard a lot today, especially from, the image that was presented is what mobile technology can do for the Western world. But if you look into the problem of the developing world, it looks like we are trying to use old recipes that maybe failed or maybe succeeded in the West in the developing world. The problem in the developing world is primary social innovation and also overcoming stereotypes. And the thing is that technology, if technology is smart, can help you overcome those. If you read the book, for example, of Daniel Kahneman's Fast and Slow Thinking, you will see that how hard it is to remove from people's minds the stereotypes. But using today's media, today's technologies, you can be selective in the media that you present, and you can be selective on the people that you focus in the developing countries. So to develop leaders and social activists that are equipped with the right information to make the change in the developing world. So the developing world doesn't have to go through the same paths and the same mistakes that the West. It's a big market by itself, but we have to develop tools that fit this market.
I think you're right, and I think that the governor of the state of Osam in this morning gave us a good example of how actually this is being done in his or her country and how this is being implemented. I take 3 more people to talk, and then we do a final roundup. If you just put the microphone onto the chair, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Professor. I just want to follow up on some of the things that just discussed when we talk about youth innovation. I mean, I'm really talking about this more in the context of Asia and like Hong Kong and China, is the culture, the tolerance to error. You know, when we go for innovation, when we go for entrepreneurship, yesterday Ralph Salmon told me that the Angry Bird was the 42nd product of that particular company. So it took them 41 mistakes to make one, successful case. But what I've seen, for example, in Hong Kong, is that our government have been giving out grants to this kind of startups, and they never used up the money because the official was afraid. He's afraid of putting a grant, and if the company goes belly up, he may be accountable. So really, we need to be tolerant to errors, to change, to serial entrepreneurs, so one day they maybe succeed. And if they failed, they still increase the social innovation capital, because you have a group of youngsters in the society who have gone through the startup exercise. They may not be successful in the first case, but they've learned, they have gained, and this is a social innovation capital I think we need to pay attention to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will start putting down the chairs because we're closing down the conversation. And I ask Felix.
Thank you, Peter. I actually wanted to go back to the origin of the first section of the discussion, which is to try to find social innovation from third world countries, come up and have those innovations actually implemented by a much greater good or existing technology other than mobile, and put it back into the villages without affecting their culture or their practice or their society. I know it's the most challenging thing, and in less than 30 days, I have to do this in Indonesia. And Indonesia is 380 million people.